I'm kind of a stickler for starting a meeting on time, so it's kind of like Don Shula, in honor of Don Shula. That's what he said. He would start that meeting at 12 o'clock. It would start at 12 o'clock whether I was ready or not.
94, huh?
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the second Brown Bag Lunch, sponsored by the Town of Henniker. We had an interesting dialogue last week, and we also had another little Zoom meeting later on in the day where we had a Zoom call with a business resource. And we had the SBA, the New Hampshire Economic Development, Chamber of Commerce, and the Town of Henniker jumped on the call here, and we hope to act like a nice little resource and sounding board for those members of the community that may have some questions about some of the various programs that are out there. I thought we did a pretty good job for our inaugural meeting, and we'll hopefully be doing this every Tuesday at this time for the Brown Bag Lunch. And you know, we certainly have some interesting challenges as a community as well as individuals. And hopefully by banding together, we can sort of be a force multiplier and figure this thing out.
There you go.
So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Joe. And then as we go along, feel free to jump in with questions. And Ruth, if you got some questions that you'd like answered, please go ahead and jump in after Joe. So,
Okay.
Joe.
So we had a town hall meeting educational today as well. We met with the SAU, the Henniker Community School in New England College, jumped on as well and had a Zoom meeting just like this. That'll be posted on Facebook and on the website as well. And the SAU just kind of gave us a quick update on how they're viewing things, how they're moving forward, how they're dealing with commencement, and from the Henniker Community School, how they're dealing with, you know, the moving on, the passage of the students from, you know, elementary, middle school into high school. NEC kind of, they jumped on as well and talked about the challenges that they're facing right now. The challenges they're facing as far as financially with the current state of things, and in the event they weren't able to open, let's say in September, things like that. So it was a productive call that we went over.
Joe, is that recorded anywhere that we can listen to it?
It'll be uploaded on the website and on Facebook today or tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is recorded. You know, I can tell you one of the big driving forces, obviously, for NEC is, you know, they're in the nature of room and board and being able to provide that. That's the college experience. They're not set up to do online. That's not their business model. So when they can't have classes in Henniker or in Manchester, because they have a campus in Manchester, that's one of the challenges they definitely have. And they have a board meeting coming up, they said, on Friday to kind of discuss some of the shortfalls that are coming in. Being a private institution, they can't get bailed out from the state like UNH or like Keene can. So that's a different avenue. They did say they have accessed some of the federal monies that are available to institutions. So they have been looking at that as well. So, but that will be posted. On the town side, again, we're just kind of marching forward the best we can. We are still, from town hall, doing the split scheduling. So we have always people in town hall, but we're working in two different teams. So in the event anybody is contaminated and gets sick, we are not crossing over with each other. Is the hope behind that. And we have our, you know, companies coming in to clean up, to sterilize everything for us. We've been able to actually get our hands on hand sanitizer, so we're starting to get stuff ready for when we eventually reopen. And that's kind of our hope, is when are we going to reopen and how are we going to be prepared for that? We have requested the state to get disposable face masks for public coming in. The staff all has cloth face masks already. We're ramping up the hand sanitizer, disinfectant, and we actually have thermometers coming in from the state as well to check temperatures for employees if that's the route we need to go, if the governor says that way. So we're trying to get things motivated and ready to go so we have that reopening. You know, personally, I haven't spoken to the board fully yet. I don't envision us, while we have the stay-at-home order, I don't envision town hall opening up fully because it defeats the purpose of what the governor's trying to do. But I do think we have to have a plan ready to go. So, you know, he wants to call it 2.0. Whenever he releases 3.0, we're ready to move forward with it.
So, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, Ruth, you said you had some questions for us. So you have our undivided attention.
Isn't that interesting?
How's this for service? You like this?
I like this. Let's keep this up. Yeah. I feel important. Well, my first question is a very personal one. And that's at the last select board meeting that I attended, must have been 6 weeks ago, maybe longer, probably was the last one that you held in person. there was discussion about the water main project coming in under Route 202. And Peter Flynn looked at me and he said, it ends right at your house, Ruth. And I'm wondering, when does that project begin? And how long are we going to be unable to get to and from our house?
So I can answer a little bit of that for you, Ruth. First, obviously, they can't begin any construction because they need the warrant article to pass in order to do the water project.
That's what I was thinking.
So until the bond is passed, they can't do any work. I have had discussions with the water commissioners, and it sounds like due to when town meeting is eventually going to happen, if it's going to happen, we don't really know, but I don't think they're going to be moving forward with that project this year from the initial reactions I've heard from the water commissioners. So the project will probably put off a year.
Okay. So town meeting is again postponed? It's not going to happen this weekend?
No, because the governor has issued the stay-at-home order still, and because we can't have gatherings of more than 10 people. I've had discussions with Cordell about the drive-through model like Bo did, and I believe Hopkinton School District is going to be doing it as well, come up in the next couple weeks. He's not comfortable with it from what he's told me. He's concerned just because of the sheer mass of the warrant. You know, we have 37 items, let's say.
Right.
You know, a school district going through Bo had 6. So, and one of those was asking if they could do it, if they could vote this way.
Right.
So, you know, dealing with 5 warrants, one's a budget, and then a couple warrants, it's a lot different than dealing with, 37 warrant articles. And dealing with 37 warrant articles when we have amendments that constantly happen. And, how is that really going to look? Because that would mean technically the board's going to have to decide what amendments go forward, because we have to create a ballot to make it happen. And I just logistically, I think it'll be really hard for a municipality to use that model. One of the other things that are being discussed is doing it outdoors. Again, speaking to Cordell, he's not really in favor of that either. Logistically, what if it rains? What if, it's windy? We have to get PA equipment. We have to make sure people can still socially distance while being able to hear everybody. And if we ever had a good turnout, let's say we had 150 people come out, do we have a space large enough to hold 150 people outside while, again, being able to provide everybody able to hear, see? It's just going to be difficult, I think.
Yeah, community park would do it, but
it'd be hard, though.
It would be hard.
So it's not off the table. I mean, Cordell's he's going to be on the agenda tonight to talk about town meeting with the board. And I'm sure all these ideas are going to be floating around. But as of right now, town meeting is postponed till sometime after May 31st.
Okay. Which answers that question. So, and that's what I was assuming, that we couldn't, those projects couldn't go forward until the warrant articles were passed. And in order to do that, you need people to be able to ask questions about those warrant articles, and you can't just do it by drive-by vote. Yeah, and there is discussion. NHMA, the New Hampshire Municipal Association, has drafted a letter to the governor asking him to issue an emergency order that would allow towns essentially to get a default budget. The budget would be the same as was passed last year. So the 2019 budget would then become the 2020 budget. They would waive. I read that as well. Yeah. They would waive the requirements to have 50 signatures to have a special town meeting. So in the event when this passes, if we wanted to go forward with a bond that wasn't included, we could have a special town meeting to deal with that. Okay. But the governor has not signed off on that. So we're still sitting in limbo right now on May 5th without a budget. Okay, so my second question is, and you're probably going to answer it in a similar way, is the town going to hold its annual Memorial Day celebration and parade? So that is also on the agenda for tonight to discuss. I can tell you, to go to the select board tonight, huh? I can tell you my recommendation to the board is going to be to cancel it, as most communities have canceled their Memorial Day parades. I've spoken with the fire chief, who is in charge of the patriotic services and deals with that. And he is also, I have an email from him, I'm just looking for it. He's also in favor of canceling it. He's going to ask if on Thursday, if they could do a rifle ceremony. But again, nothing really involving people, just to kind of still put the flags out like we normally would, but there'd be no parade. Okay. And then the third, which is the most important one for me, is what am I supposed to do about the summer concert series?
So that is a difficult one. As of right now, again, I just had a couple conversations. Susan Adams was looking to do a cleanup day at Azalea Park. While we have this stay-at-home order and we have no gatherings of more than 10 or more people, I don't think we can move forward with anything. It goes against everything what we're trying to do, and I don't think the town should be sponsoring events. And this is my opinion. This would be my recommendation to the board again. I don't think we should be sponsoring events that are bringing people together that contradicts what they're trying to accomplish. We don't know after May 31st, what his new order is going to look like. If he's going to open that up to maybe gatherings of 50 people. I don't see him going from 10 to allowing everything in the span overnight. I just don't think it's feasible. But hopefully, he'll start allowing more people, which will be able to allow us the capability to do things like that.
So his next order doesn't happen until May 31st?
Well, the stay-at-home order and the groups of gatherings of 10 or more are in effect until May 31st. So he will do something before that, but that's when it's set to expire. And if he doesn't do anything, then it would just roll and we'd be done. We could start having things. I don't see him doing that with the way he's progressed with everything, though.
No, I think he's doing a nice job, actually, and I'm not questioning. I think he's being very careful and very appropriate. So I'm not questioning that. I'm trying to figure out whether I should cancel the whole season, whether I should, and I know you've put us on the agenda for the select board for the 19th.
Yep.
But, or should I just cancel the June concerts and hope that we'll do some in July and August?
Well, how much, Ruth, I'm a big advocate of trying to keep things as normal as possible,
Yeah.
even when a full-on storm is occurring. How much notice do you generally need for the bands? Because I think once the order is lifted and people are feeling a little bit safer to venture out of their foxholes, if you will, I think there's going to be pent-up demand to be able to do some of these things. And, I'm not advocating one way or the other, but, Joe, question on the 10,
Yeah.
Is that for indoor or is that outdoor as well?
That's any event.
Any event.
Can't have anything. Yep.
So I guess the question is, what kind of time frame and lead time do you need to?
Well,
I think in the age of social media that if you announced you had a concert in a week or two, I think you'd have no problem filling it up.
right. We have, the bands are all committed. I haven't sent out contracts because I figured once I sent out contracts, we're obligated to pay them, whether they perform or not.
Now that you would probably want to have a conversation with the bands and say,
I know,
hey,
and I've talked with them about that, but and I've put a clause in the contract saying that, that we could cancel with no penalty for anybody.
Yep.
So
When's your first concert?
June 14th. So I think we need to cancel the June concerts.
I agree with you on that.
Ideally, if we could go month by month, if you canceled the June concerts, we would know by the beginning of June what the status. So at least it gives you a little. You're not canceling the entire season if we're taking it, piece by piece.
Right. I need at least 2 weeks to promote the concerts, because we only have weekly papers, and I just don't want to expend money on posters and flyers and stuff like that if we're not going to be holding these concerts. So I haven't prepped any of that stuff. If I'm canceling the June concerts, then I would move forward with having the posters and the flyers set up for a partial series beginning in July. See, our first July concert actually is June 30th, and it's the 4th of July celebration with the 39th Army Band. So, and that's scheduled, I think, for June 30th. So that would have been our first, major event, because generally 300 to 400 people come to that one. And I think Kris is absolutely right. People are ready and anxious to do something other than be in their little foxholes, as he said. So
I
and
agree with that.
if we stage it, they will come. Field of Dreams, you know, and especially if it's something like the 4th of July celebration, which is a little special and usually has food attached to it. And then the Blues and Brews Fest, which is scheduled for July 21st. Again, that's a big event. And then the last one of the season, Nick's Other Band, which even Kris goes to.
I stopped in at a couple of concerts.
But that one you're sure to go to usually, unless it's a select board meeting. So so I guess I'm looking for direction, and I suppose May 19th, if I sit in on the select board meeting, I can get more direction. But I think between now and then, my committee is anxious to make some decisions. You know, I have, you know, 1 or 2 people saying we should cancel the whole season.
No, I don't agree with that.
And I'm really hesitant to do that.
Let me ask you this. Let me play devil's advocate. What's the upside to canceling the whole season?
Well, Henniker has nothing going on.
I know. So why not just cancel it 1 month at a time if you have to?
Oh, I suppose I could do that.
I mean, that's kind of the way I mean, summer's pretty long. I mean, you got June, July, August, September. You know, you got 4 months.
Yeah, we don't do anything in September. We do concerts up to the last week of August, because by then kids are back at school, and it also is dark at night. So we generally end, I think this year we're scheduled to end on August 25th.
Okay, so you got June, July, and August. I would just do it 1 month at a time, especially if you don't have much cost in printing stuff, and maybe you can just kind of hold on to your shekels there a little bit. But the bigger concern that I would have is if you did have 300 to 400 people in the community park, would you be able to safe distance?
There is an issue, and certainly people could. I think people spread out pretty well there, and we certainly ask them to. But there's plenty of room behind the bandstand over on Peter's yard.
Are you saying we should use Peter's yard? Is that what you're saying?
We do.
I think I heard that.
We do.
I heard that.
Peter opens his yard to the kids.
Oh, nice.
And actually even puts toys out for them so they can play wiffle ball and catch and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, he and Kathy are very generous with their space. So, you know, I consider that part of the concert space on Tuesday nights.
Yeah, and you know, quite honestly too, Ruth, I think that might be a little bit of a stretch to have a 300 to 400 person event at the end of June. So I don't know if, I mean, could you do a reservation system? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, could you put up some sort of landscaping fence and at least control the number of people, and you have a cap that, you know, if we measured it out to figure out how many people safely could fit into that space?
Well,
you do that for the Brews and Blues, right?
Yeah, Kris has very generously offered his help with snow fencing, and I suppose we could do that for the series and map the park off with snow fencing and only one entrance, and ask, you know, and stop entrance at 200 people. But that wouldn't stop people from standing across the street in front of Daniel's from listening, which a lot of people do anyway, or standing behind the fencing. Because there are people who stand in the back and on the sidewalk and across the street who don't come and sit in the park at all.
Yep.
But yeah, we could, I suppose.
It's just an idea. I mean,
yeah, I would.
What if we closed off the street in front of Daniel's? I know that would probably, yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah. And how would that play with Mr. Kevin?
probably not too well.
And this is being recorded, so I think we need to be.
No, I mean, I believe in, you know, full disclosure. I'm not trying to hide from anything, but
No.
it was just a 2-hour period for the concert.
Mhm.
I don't know. I know, you know, he'd probably have some issues with it.
I think the best we could do would be to fence in the park perimeter and have one entry, and ask people to social distance 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
You know, families could all sit together on a blanket or on their chairs, but
You think Kevin would have a hard time if we allowed him to put some tables out front and fence that in and offer alcohol service out there? You think he'd have a?
we've offered him that for years. He's never
really?
taken advantage of it. No.
Oh.
No, he just is upset because it interferes with parking. And we make a big point
Thank you.
in all of our promotional materials and from the stage, telling people not to park on Main Street, not to interfere with the businesses on Main Street on Tuesday nights, but to park in back of the community center or in the NEC admin parking lot.
Yep.
And we adhere to that. And most of the people that I see parking on Main Street are going into Daniel's or to the pizza place. And maybe this summer, the ice cream place, if it opens. So I don't know. I would love to block off Main Street on Tuesday nights. I think it would be grand, but I think we'd have a lot of pushback. And maybe not just from Daniel's, but from the other merchants. So
I wouldn't block off the whole Main Street. I would just block off the section for the park. But you're probably right. It would create some heartburn.
Yeah.
But
So I would need some help. I don't know. I don't know if the committee is capable of measuring the park and figuring out what our capacity would be. Is there somebody that's got that skill at Pat's Peak that could do that for us, Kris, or somebody on the town employee that could make that recommendation, Joe?
I'm sure we could. I mean, I'm sure we can map it out as far as getting the size of community park and then play with the math to get it. Yeah.
Kris, would you donate the snow fencing on Tuesday nights and putting it up?
Absolutely. Huh? Yeah, we would take care of that.
Putting up and taking it down? Okay.
Yep.
And that's certainly one alternative. And what I would suggest is, and then the committee, we have 2 co-hosts every week. The committee would be responsible for, we could get clickers and check people in.
Yep. So
that we know what our capacity is and only admit people in that one entrance. And I'd suggest that we put the entrance in the front on Main Street. And we could probably use help from the constabulary to help us maintain order and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But again, that wouldn't stop people from gathering outside the snow fencing on all 4 sides.
That's fair. That's fair.
And that's going to happen. And there are going to be people who wander by and just want to hear the music and don't care if they sit down on the grass or at a picnic table. They're going to be there. So yeah. I can bring all that to our committee as recommendations, and then maybe finalize some of that at the select board meeting on the 19th. Make sure that everybody's on board with it.
It would definitely be a good exercise to go through.
Okay. Joe, how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with them. Making a note about it right now. So,
Okay.
Yep.
But I, like you, Kris, I don't want to cancel this event. It is so near and dear to my heart, and everything else around us is being canceled, as you know. It's just, it is something good. It is something good that we do for the community that brings lots of benefits, not only, you know, to people getting out and building community, but the local businesses have said it's a great boon to business on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know you're certainly very passionate about it, so I appreciate all you do for it.
Okay. Those were my 3 questions.
All right. Well, Joe, I don't know if you want to talk about some other issues here. Hopefully some more people jump on, or do you want to save for maybe tonight?
I can talk about whatever you like. I mean.
All right. Well, I understand that the governor's received some money and that the towns may be getting some fiscal relief on that. You want to maybe explain some of that?
Yeah, so we are getting a little bit of fiscal relief. The governor, under his Gopher committee, has allocated $40 million to government. It's $32 million to municipalities and $8 million to the counties. Of the $32 million, Henniker is allocated $114,000 essentially. That allocation is not just a blank check, here you go, where we get it into our bank account. It's going to be only for reimbursement of items that are related to COVID. Some things that are included in that is our TAN interest. So we can use any interest we have to pay on our TANs. We can use some of the funds for that. Any money we've expensed to get people working remotely.
Yeah,
so,
and if people don't know what TANs are, it's a tax anticipation note. It's basically a line of credit that the town can tap to fund operations. But go ahead, Joe, sorry.
Sure, no problem. Any money we've put out to get people working remotely or teleworking. So we do have people working remotely. We had to have our IT services in here to set up computers to be able to do that. All that money will be able to get reimbursed to the town.
Excellent.
Looking at my list. So we have specifically our crossing guard and our parking enforcement officer are no longer working. We've been still paying them though, because the parking enforcement officer, because of his age, we didn't want him working because he ran higher risk of getting the disease. All those wages can be reimbursed now through the town. So we can actually get all that reimbursed to us as well, which is pretty nice. Any signage we have to do to get the town ready, as we're ordering more sanitizer, things like that, that's all going to be covered and we're going to be able to receive reimbursement. When you come into town hall, we have plexiglass put up now over the clerk's window, the building official, and the assessing office. That all will be reimbursed to us. We've been in the process of trying to get the community center up and running for meetings. A lot of that will actually be reimbursed as well, because if the event they have to, let's say he allows 50 people, let's say that's the next step that he does. Our meeting room is too small. We wouldn't be able to safely hold a meeting. So because the next step would be the community center, we can get any reimbursement to bring in. We brought fiber into there. We put town hall streams. All that can now be reimbursed. So it's just any monies we've put out there gives us the opportunity to get reimbursed if it's not covered through FEMA.
That's awesome. That's a good step. That's a good move.
Yeah, so it backdates from March and it covers us through August is our time frame right now. So.
Okay, good stuff.
Just a thought, and I don't know whether this is doable or not, but with NEC not in session, they have three spaces that are larger than the community center.
Correct.
They have the old science hall, the brand new theater, and then they have the the place where the pub is.
The Simon Center.
The Simon Center. 3 very large spaces.
Yep.
If it would be to their advantage to offer one of those spaces to the town.
Sure.
To show their goodwill to the town.
Sure, but it's still in violation of the governor's order of 10 or more assembly.
But wouldn't that be the same for the community center?
I'm talking, yeah, I think what Ruth means is if he makes the change to, let's say, 50 people or 100 people.
Okay, so you're talking more long-term.
Correct.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah. No, that's fine.
Well, because he was talking about the room is too small at town hall to hold meetings. And yeah, he's absolutely right. You can't social distance for more than 10 people in that small room. But in any of those other 3 spaces.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And that's definitely something we can look at.
And
I think NEC would be more than happy to accommodate us if we needed them to.
I think they should.
So.
Perfect. So Joe, why don't you talk a little bit about that? So that's great news. Why don't you talk a little bit about what the town is doing with formulating operations around COVID or the stay-at-home order 2.0?
So yeah, we kind of, we anticipated some things happening. Specifically with 2.0, the big change is obviously the campgrounds are opening, and we've had some conversations with our campgrounds just to make sure they're aware of what they can and can't do. And that's scheduled to happen as of yesterday, the 4th. Next week on the 11th, the retail establishments can open back up if they were not considered essential. So you're going to see retail starting to kick up, which will be good. On the 18th, we're going to start having restaurants be able to open up for outdoor dining only. On our agenda tonight, I actually have a proposal to allow sidewalk dining in our downtown to try to help our downtown businesses that maybe don't have decks or things like that to be able to at least get some seating. Because he hasn't said how long the outdoor dining has to take place. He hasn't said, it's only gonna be a week and then next week we're gonna be able to move into, 25% capacity, let's say. He hasn't given us any directive on that. So to try to help our downtown establishments who don't have that opportunity, the spirit, I know they're looking to try to use some of the parking lot to get some more extra seating, things like that. A place like Sunny's or a place like Daniel's or a place like Abby's really doesn't have that opportunity. So the sidewalk's a good place to try to get some of that. So I have a proposal for the selectmen to look at sidewalk dining, which is something we'll put in front. And then, it's just trying to forecast how the town itself is going to ramp up and get ready to operate. I think everybody's ready for us to. We want to get back to work normally. So.
Good stuff. All right. And then I guess one other question I had is, how's it going with town hall being physically closed, but we're receiving phone calls and people are doing a lot of stuff online? Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
So it primarily is going to relate to our clerk's office. Obviously, the town clerk is the one, the town clerk, tax collector. We haven't sent tax bills out yet, so they're not dealing with that piece. But people registering cars seems to be a big push, a big issue. We're doing the best we can. I can tell you that on certain days there's only one staff member in there. People are getting the answer, getting a voicemail, things like that. We are getting back to them. I actually have starting next week when the people are working from home, the phones will actually be ringing at their houses as well now to try to be able to answer phone calls in a more timely manner so that they're not getting answer machines anymore. They're going to get that person. And the hope is, they may not be able to look up a registration right then and there, but if they're trying to figure out how to do something, they're able to talk them through it online and get them to the answer that they need. So we're trying to, again, roll with it to try to provide the best service to the citizens that we can.
Awesome.
So.
All right. Well, Ruth, do you have any other questions?
I was trying to think of some to keep you busy, but I pretty much.
No, we realize that people will probably use this more as a reference. I understand that there are a lot of people that just looked at this meeting after the fact. They may be busy at work right now and they do it, but we'll continue to do these every Tuesday, and we'll have sometimes one caller, we'll have sometimes 10 callers, and hopefully the audience builds. And as we roll out initiatives and some more helpful things, hopefully this process moves out a little bit. But I have nothing else. Joe?
I would just say, in response to what Kris just said, if people do have questions and they can email me, they can email Kris, and we'll be happy to answer this on a Tuesday. So in the event they can't make it, we can still answer the question. You know, the question may benefit other people as well. So if they shoot us an email, we'll ask the question like Kris was just doing. We'll answer it. And again, we'll post these back out on the website and back on Facebook, the recording, so they can go back and still hear their answer. So if people have those, feel free to send us an email. You can, townadministrator@henniker.org, you can get me at. So.
Sounds good.
Well, I appreciate the answers to my questions today. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thanks, Ruth. Thanks, Joe. And
Kris,
we'll
thank
see you
you.
tonight. Tonight, the meeting at 6 o'clock.
See you tonight.
Cheers.
Take care.